Facebook. Welcome, at long last, to the 400K Q&A. You know, how long has Facebook been around for? Why isn't there a better way for me to print out my... It's like there are so many elements of Facebook that are just at the cutting edge of technology, and obviously this company and this website, whatever you want to call it, has been created by brilliant people. But can we find a fucking better way to assemble the comments, please? It may exist, and I may not have found it. And I'm sorry for swearing 40 seconds into the Q&A. I might swear a couple of times during the Q&A. One more thing on Facebook before we get to these questions, which are great, and thank you very much. You know, some people on the website are trolling a little bit with their comments. And that's fine. But would you do me a favor, everybody? If somebody comes on the site and writes an obviously negative, possibly trolly, just dipshitty comment, don't respond to them. Don't engage with them. There is so much positivity and love on the Facebook page, and that's where we should leave things. By the way, it is freezing in Vancouver. Apropos of nothing. It doesn't get much colder in Vancouver than it is right now, but it's warm in my trailer. I'll tell you that much. One more, like 2 minutes in, we haven't gotten to a question yet. I think it was fantastic how many people watched the show last night and the response that we've been getting. I can tell you with a high degree of certainty that episode 9 is the best episode that we have ever done. I know that I say this, but when you think about it, a show should get better as it moves along, right? Like, that is the whole idea, that a show is supposed to learn what it does well and then subsequently get better. That's what we're going for. Episode 9 is our best episode ever, and it will be surpassed very shortly thereafter, possibly by episode 11. Jesus. And maybe episode 13, which we're shooting right now. Here we go. Actual Facebook questions from actual Facebook friends. If I mispronounce your name, I'm sorry. And I did have to delete a bunch of Q&As a while back. Just figuring out social media and social media changing when you're dealing with 1,000 people on your page versus the number that we have now. And so my apologies specifically to Robert Scott Bean, who's a good guy, that they had to be deleted. That is. Janice Sam would like to know, hi Stephen, what did Oliver say in Russian in Keep Your Enemies Closer to get the car keys? And how hard is it to learn your lines in Russian? It's very hard, and I'm going to be working harder at it in the future. And I'm never ever going to say what Oliver said. He said please. Why would he lie to Felicity? Richmond Lord would like to know how much I knew about Green Arrow before I was offered the part. Absolutely nothing. No, I've said this before, but I mean quite literally nothing. Stephanie Bond, how many guys were on the list for the role of Arrow? I don't know. David Rappaport is our casting director. Now, I have been bugging him and to actually give me the footage of my audition. He's let me see it, but I don't know if I'm allowed to let other people see it because it could be a DVD. At the very least, we're going to get that guy on a DVD at some point in the future. But I'm sure that David Rappaport, who casted our show, and, you know, who found our entire cast and Katie Lotz this year and Grant Gustin, and I'm sure he had a big list. I do know that I was the first person that actually read. So maybe I just stole it before other people had a chance to audition. Which is fine. I'm fine with that. Kate Glugarash. I should know how to pronounce that better. Hoping no one beat me to this question, but Andrew Kreisberg said on Twitter the other day, our executive producer, that your wink to Felicity in episode 6 was an ad-lib. An awesome one, by the way. Thank you. Are there any others that you can think of? If there are a lot, which are your favorites? You know, typically, they've never written in the script Oliver winks. I would like to think that actually I I ad lib a great deal. Sometimes it ends up on screen, sometimes it doesn't. But you know, if there's ever an opportunity to make a moment on the show a little bit more personal, I try to do that. But you also have to respect what's written on the page, and I'd say that there's a fair bit of ad libbing. Um, I wouldn't necessarily call the wink in episode 6 an ad lib. It was just I. What did you say? I said please, and then I winked. But I like doing that stuff. I've checked the questions that I want to answer. Sarah Mepti would like to know that you filmed the scene with Sarah when the Gambit went down twice now. In season 1 with Jacqueline McInnes Wood, and in the second season with Katie Lotz. So what was the biggest difference, and how much does the dynamic of a scene change in terms of who your acting partner is? You know, that was a weird, very, very surreal experience that, even though it was a positive one, I hope that, you know, I never have to experience again. Once you shoot a scene, kind of like to put it to bed. You know, that was one of, if not the last scenes that we shot on the pilot, because I had to shave, and it was just a very very different scene. Two different actors, obviously, but the weird part was rebuilding that set and going back to that set and shooting it, because at that point we are on episode 28, so we are over a year and a half removed. It seems like a lifetime ago since we shot that scene. So just in general, that was a completely surreal experience, and I'm grateful to the executive producers and the director for that episode on that one, for not for us not having to specifically, totally, utterly match what we did in the original scene, because that wouldn't have been acting. That would have been copying. Brian Harper would like to know if Stephen Amell and Oliver Queen would be friends. Clearly. Michael Miller, who's the funniest person on set? I am. Hannah Rogers, have there been any celebrities that you've been shocked to find out are fans of the show? The Duck Dynasty guys. Aviva Cohen, when will Roy get a new outfit? Does he wash his red sweatshirt? I don't know, and no, he doesn't. Chris Hoyle, did the cast always know? If you have not seen past episode 7 of the show, I'm about to spoil something, so you can stop the Q&A right now. 5-second warning. Okay. Chris Hoyle, did the cast always know that John Barrowman was coming back, or were you surprised like we were? I know everything that's going to happen on the show. What I don't know is if he and I will interact, which I am hoping for. Marcus Strand Aronson, who would win in an arm wrestling match between you and Manny Bennett? Manny's got some pretty big arms. I feel like, I don't know, but it would be worth a tournament, and I bet that Colton would be scrappy in a tournament like that. Clearly Diggle would kick the shit out of all of us, but anyway. Leonie Wozie would like to know, first off, let me say, I don't want to see it happen within the next 274 years, but okay. But how would you like the ending of Arrow to play out overall? Respectively, what is your favorite ending for books and movies? Happy, sad, bittersweet, open, cliffhanger? I don't know how I would like it to end. But I would, when we decide to get to the last season, I would like to announce that last season is coming. I would like to announce that it will be the final season before we start shooting it. I always think that that's good, and that helps people put a bow on things. But, I mean, I always like it when it ends when the character dies. Or we think that he dies. One or the other. Not both, though. Hey, Michael, this is an interesting question. Michael James Campbell says, hey, Stephen, just a question. How do you feel about organ transplants? I know the question is not about Arrow, but I do want to know what you think about it. On the 6th of December 1988, I had a liver transplant, so it would be 25 years ago next Friday. Congratulations. Thanks, and I will keep watching you post Facebook clips. Also love Arrow. Keep up the great work. Thank you, Michael. Saying a lot. I'm an organ donor. My wife is an organ donor. My daughter certainly will be an organ donor. My mom is an organ donor. And I think everyone in my family that I know is an organ donor, and I think that everyone should be an organ donor. It's an easy thing to do. It can positively affect a lot of lives, like it has for Mr. Michael James Campbell. And I don't really know if there's anything more to say about it. I've been an organ donor. I can't believe it took me this long, but I actually saw a piece on the late Chris Henry, who was a wide receiver for the Cincinnati Bengals and passed away, and they did a piece on him passing away and his mother agreeing to donate his organs, and then they brought all the people whose lives it changed back to meet her and thank her, and I cried like a baby just thinking about that. Kim Hirsch Guest would like to know, if you host SNL and could choose the musical guest, who would you choose? That's a good question. I don't know the answer to that question. Preferably somebody preferably someone that would just cause huge amounts of controversy. I don't know, maybe Kanye. And then Kim would be there. I don't want that. Miriam Weiss, what was your favorite scene to film so far this season? It takes place in episode 12 after a gigantic explosion. Catherine Arendt Hoym, do you have enough blackmail material on Greg Berlanti, our executive producer, to get him to join the cast of Arrow for a small cameo role? No, I don't. And I'm pretty sure that Greg knows I'm doing this Q&A right now and could have me killed if he wanted to. Guy has that much power. Camila L. Santos would like to know, I'm constantly screaming at my TV because of all the twists Arrow has. Have you ever found yourself screaming at your script? Yes. Yes, I have. I'm always surprised when we take moments that you think would button an episode, which you think that moment is significant enough that it would be at the end of an episode, and it takes place before the second commercial break. Like, for example, and again, spoiler alert, in episode 5, when we're trying to protect the Lances, Felicity tries with Detective Lance and fails, and Sarah says, well, I'm just gonna go, and all of a sudden you think that something is going to happen so that she's not going to have to reveal herself to her father, and then she reveals herself to her father. That, I love when that happens. Christopher Frank LaRusso, have you ever played with yourself in the game Injustice? Well, that's personal, Christopher, and I thank you to stay out of my personal affairs. Leona Pup would like to know, if you were invisible for a day, what would be the first thing you'd do? And that concludes the slightly dirty section of the 400K Q&A. Last question for this part. Jordan Tyler, what was the moment, film, or experience in your life that made you want to be an actor? Watching The People vs. Larry Flint, when Edward Norton addresses the Supreme Court. I love that scene. It's not my favorite movie, but that's my favorite performance. Ed Norton, People vs. Larry Flint. Amazing. Thank you, Facebook. I'm like, we got a ways to go here. We'll be back with part 2. Thank you for watching last night, and I will see you soon. Bye-bye.